The retirement fund, retired teachers, they're paid below what just a normal clerk, state employee retirement is. That's just baloney. That's just, there again, that's common sense. We've lost a lot of common sense in our system, and we have to just bring that back, but we have to simplify things and quit making it so complicated.
And I guess finally, do you have a plan for addressing the issue of high-stakes testing in Texas public schools?
Number one, I'm totally against the STAR test. I think this goes back to your special interest. When all this was formed, it was, if you kind of follow the money, it was a special interest that come up with it, then it kind of went on to the legislators, that was paid by the special interest, so on. When I was in school, this is gonna tell my age, but I took the achievement test. I think that there should be some sort of testing in our school system where we can monitor the kids and monitor, but the teachers have to be able to teach the kids, not teach for the test. Thank you.
Ms. Lawson? Do you remember them all, or do you want some help?
I sort of do, but I kind of like it when you break it down that way. I think it makes it
Let's
easier.
start with the budget. How would you advocate for more funding for public education?
Okay, so first off, I'm going to back up just a second. I am a proud product of my public ISD. I grew up in Stephenville ISD. That's where my kids are at now, and I think we have amazing rural schools. So this last November, we all got the chance to vote on some constitutional amendments, and one of those involved allowing additional money to be transferred out of the permanent school fund over to the available school fund. We do have excesses in the rainy day fund, and y'all, if we're not using those for proper functions of government, we shouldn't just be hanging on to it. You reach a certain point at which you're not saving for a rainy day anymore, you're just saving the taxpayers' dollars. And then we have sales tax revenues that are just through the roof year after year. I think this last year it was like $32 billion was a note that I had in sales tax revenues that exceeded projections. So it's not that we don't have money available, it's like in our household budgets, it's how do you use it? And when we use a substantial portion of money on things like standardized testing that we all hate, then there's some pretty easy places to pinpoint that if we made some changes, perhaps we would have more money available to invest in those classrooms.
Okay, your position, point of view about private schools?
Okay, I am anti-voucher. I am pro-parents getting to choose whether they want to homeschool, public school, or take their kids to private school. But I don't believe in tax dollars following that choice, and that's for a few reasons. One, I strongly support my public schools, and if we start diverting those resources, for whatever reason, over to other institutions, then we're going to cripple our rural schools even further. Another is my friends and family members who make decisions to homeschool or to send their kids to Christian school. They're doing that because either there's something in the public schools that isn't working for their kids, or there's something missing from it that they really want them to have, like that religious education component. Well, if we start allowing the government dollars to follow that choice, you'll know it's not very long before the government's going to be following that choice with them. And there's a real risk there that those reasons that they have left will evaporate, and we'll just have other schools that are all too similar to the public schools. So I do not advocate at all for vouchers.
The teacher retirement system, how to help retired teachers meet the cost of the ever-rising cost?
Yes, so I've gotten to visit with a lot of active and retired educators. And with retired educators, the two things that I hear over and over are, we need a COLA. We haven't had a COLA since I think it was 1999, they say. And we need help with our health care. And the particular frustration with their health care that comes up is the state employees receive a different kind of insurance benefits and better help with that, whereas retired teachers don't. And sometimes as those costs continue to escalate on them, their bottom line, as we all know, continues to deteriorate. So it would seem to me that a major opportunity for improving those bottom lines for our retired teachers is particularly addressing that healthcare issue and treating them more like our state employees, if not just one common plan. I'll also say it was really frustrating last month, y'all, when we saw the news story break about the TRS system leasing a building in downtown Austin for brand new luxury office space at just the astronomical price of, I think it was $326,000 a month. That is so far beyond the average cost of a home of the retired teachers that I've sat in their living room talking to them that it's hard to even imagine. Now, there have been some responses coming back out of that trying to justify it, but when this is an agency that is charged with the stewardship, the faithful stewardship of the resources for all of our retired teachers, it doesn't smell right at a minimum. And I would like to think that in the coming weeks, as there's some more pressure applied upon them, that they will find a more appropriate place to hold their offices, because I think it can be found. I did fire off a letter to them. I wasn't by any means the only person that did that. And if you're a retired teacher and you haven't reached out to them directly, I encourage you to let them hear from you.
And state testing. What about the issue of high stakes testing?
Yes. So I'm 42. I grew up back in the teens and TOS test days. So standardized testing is, it's a familiar thing to me, but I have kids in public school now, and what they deal with and what their teachers deal with is nothing like what I did back in the day. And maybe I romanticize it just a wee bit, because it seems to me like we would show up and we were told, get out your number 2 pencil, we bubbled some stuff in, we went on our way. We didn't spend all year. We didn't spend 30 days in a year getting ready for a test. And I watch what goes on, and I'm very blessed that my kid she tests well. So she doesn't deal with some of the anxiety and some of the other issues that kids do. But I watch, and I know that there's a difference between content mastery and the ability to take a test. And we really ought to be focusing on that content mastery. Now, test-taking skills are good, but we're missing out. We're missing out. So I advocate strongly for the repeal and replacement of the STAR test. I think that what we use instead in our classrooms ought to be defined by the educators who are the professionals in the classroom, who know what would be appropriate for them to determine what helps them gauge where a student's at and bring that learner along. I don't think the answer is going to come from me, who has not taught, which that reminds me of the substitute question. And I don't think it comes from 181 legislators under a dome or TEA necessarily. But I do think that we have plenty of professionals with the experience, but we've all got to be working together, because it is a big, mighty beast, and it will take our teachers, it'll take our taxpayers, it'll take our parents to affect that change. But we can do it if we all work together. Which brings us to, would I substitute teach? Yes. Okay. So I've done some pinch hitting in a classroom before, and it's hard work. It is absolutely hard work. So would I go and do it? You bet, because I'm also one of those people who I love to go on the tours of our different plants. I've been to a Fire Ops 101 course where they geared me up and took me into a burn building to see how to put it out. So I think those tangible experience do help understand. But I'm not going to stand up here and pretend like it's going to be the best day or the most productive education day for those kids either. So thank y'all.
Again, sort of starting again, the idea of how would you advocate for more funding for the state of public education in the state?
I already advocate for more funding for public education. I sit on the Appropriations Committee, which is the highest committee in the House, and we're able to put our thumbprint on how much money comes through that committee that goes to public education. And we were able to increase the state's share of funding from 38% to 45% last session. That meant $32 million more for the schools in District 59. That meant an increase in per student funding from about $5,100 to $6,100. So I have a direct line into how much money our schools will get. And for extra, I do believe there's sufficient funds in the rainy day funds that we should use and could use.
Your point of view on charter schools, private schools?
We were elected to this position because we are pro-public school, anti-voucher. Because the gentleman that was not elected, or not returned, was pro-voucher, pro-charter school. I am very strongly pro-public education, anti-voucher. Now, if the parent wants to put their kid in a private school, charter school, homeschool, I don't have a problem with that. It's their choice, but their tax funds need to go back to the public schools.
Teacher retirement system, trying to address the issues there?
We're endorsed by Texas State Teacher Association, we are very strong advocates of our retired teachers. We were able to give them a 13th check this time and hold the line on some of their costs. Again, their health care is a big factor. Being a physician, that's something near and dear to my heart, and it's also something I understand incredibly well when it comes to we're talking about insurance policies, group insurance, pharmaceutical costs, pharmaceutical contracts, in-network, out-of-network, prior authorization. That's probably all Greek to you folks unless you've heard your doctor or nurse throwing papers against the wall because they're so frustrated with that stuff like I am. But I have a lot of knowledge on the healthcare issue. I'm happy to bring it to play to help out our retired teachers.
And you were fairly specific about your opinion of testing.
Oh, I'm totally against high stakes testing. What we've got now is teachers being forced to teach to the test. We've got students who are anxious, upset. I've heard stories of students who are throwing up because they're so nervous about the test. I have stories of students who will take the test, go right back to their teacher and say, "Teacher, did we test well enough for you?" Because they know their grades on the test will impact on their teacher's performance review, and that's wrong. We need to have some accountability, but we had accountability back in the day when I was in school with the achievement test, the PSAT, the ACT for college prep test. We can go back to that. We need to change entirely TEA and take all that power out of Austin, put it back in the local schools, the school boards, administrators, and the teachers, and just make TEA something that's there for materials and resources.
We have one final question for the three of you. I'll start with you since it's a medical question. It's what's your stance on medical freedoms, specifically forced vaccinations?
Being a physician, I am very pro-vaccination. All you got to do is look at this coronavirus thing over in China, and you can realize instantly the importance of vaccinations. Now, I am pro-vaccination. I believe that the children coming in to our public schools need to have those vaccinations. Now, I have parents who bring their children to me who do not believe in vaccinations and do not vaccinate their children. I still see their children as their physician, but we have serious heart-to-heart talks about some of the risks their children are undergoing at this young age, and especially the risks they are going to be undergoing at an older age when they go out into society or start traveling or join the military, and they have no vaccination against some of these diseases. And the problem is, we have done so good with our vaccination, we no longer fear these diseases that used to be killers when I was a child. I remember taking some of the first polio vaccine, but I remember my mother still being nervous late spring, early summer, because that's when polio struck, okay? Now, just because we've gotten very good at keep something at bay doesn't mean it is any less dangerous. So I am pro-vaccination, okay?
Mr. Johnson?
I am pro-vaccination, but this also kind of goes back to the school voucher thing. I think it's the parent's choice, and you have to respect the parent's choice. But by saying that, they shouldn't be allowed in public schools. They shouldn't be allowed in public events. Because in colleges, they're not allowed to go into colleges without the right vaccination. But it falls back to the parent's choice. Pro-vaccination, just gotta do the right thing.
So I vaccinate for the most part. My kids have received their vaccines on the recommended schedule, with the exception of the Gardasil vaccine. And I believe that it is my right as a parent to decide if and when I want my child to have that. And I think that it is the right of any other parent to make those same decisions within their family. Now, I believe that vaccines are sound. I believe that vaccines are helpful. I believe that protecting us from widespread epidemics is a very important social safety. But I don't believe in the government mandating across the board to us that we must all have those vaccines. I think that we have to retain that autonomy and those individual rights to make those decisions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. We're going to wrap up our segment with the candidates for House of Representatives for District 59, Dr. J.D. Sheffield, Cody Johnson, and Shelby Slauson. We appreciate that. I'm glad to have you here. Welcome to Brady, and come back often. Anyway. We're going to move on to the McCullough County Sheriff's race, a race with two people, incumbent John Dagan and challenger Matt Underwood. And I don't remember which one is on the ballot.